Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. This video is a how much makeup I've used compared to previous years type of video, so I have some charts to share with you. I think I had a really successful 2019 when it came to panning products, so a lot of the makeup in my collection at the beginning of this year was fairly new or mostly full. So even though I was using makeup roughly around the same amount of times that I was in 2019, I still feel like it took me a little bit longer to finish things. I've been tracking my usage numbers since 2017, so I have 4 years worth of data to share, and I can see that it kind of ebbs and flows. I don't know. It kind of goes up and down every year. One year I have a really good year, and then the next year's a little bit slower, and then it just keeps going on like that. I'll break it into categories of eyes, lips, and face products. I'll break it down into cruelty-free versus not cruelty-free, and then I will compare what I spent versus what I finished. And if I sound weird, it's because right before I filmed, I took a gulp of water and it went completely down the wrong tube, right in my breathing tube, and I have been coughing for like 10 minutes. Let's get started with eye products, especially if you compare my numbers to last year. I used up 17 eye products last year, and this year I used up 9. I didn't use up any brow products, mainly because I was working on my ABH brow pomade. I thought I could have that done by the end of the year, but it's coming with me into 2021. There isn't a lot left, but I still think it's gonna take me at least a couple more months to finish. I go through one eyeliner pen a year. I don't think necessarily because I use it up. I just don't feel comfortable having something that's so close to my eyelashes and my eyeballs open for longer than a year, so I usually use it for a year, toss it, and then replace it with another one. I don't think I'll purchase any more in the future because I prefer using gel liner pots, and I have one from ABH that has a ton of product in it, so I don't think I'll need to buy any more in the future. For eyelid primers, I didn't use up any this year, but I do have 2 that I'm working on, one of which is almost empty, so I'll have at least something in that category next year. For eyeliner pencils, I killed it last year. I used up 4 eyeliner pencils. I only used up 1 this year. I don't know what I was doing last year, but I feel like I'm wearing eyeliner the same amount. For mascaras, last year and the year before I used up 8 mascaras, most of which were minis. The same was this year. I used 5 mascaras and I think 3 of them were minis. I think the minis that I had this year just didn't dry up that quickly, so I could make them last a little bit longer. And then for eyeshadows, I am including my 2 Stila liquid eyeshadows this year. That's why I have any number in this category at all. I don't usually use up full eyeshadows. I do think I'm going to try to use up some of the cream shadows that I have pan on that are almost finished in some of my palettes, and I do have a couple singles of like transition shades and shades that I use a lot, so maybe I'll have some more empty eyeshadows to share with you in 2021, but that's what that number 2 is for. It's from the 2 Stila Glitter and Glow liquid shadows that I used up. Now let's look at face products. I do have the majority of my products in this category just because it involves so many different things, and I will say that out of the 27 things I used up, 7 of them were SPF products. I did count that as a makeup empty this year. I think I will still continue counting the number of SPFs I use up every year, but I don't think I'll count that towards my makeup empties anymore. I was just doing that temporarily to get myself in the habit of wearing SPF more often. Obviously it worked, but I don't feel like I need to do that anymore, so I won't. But that's 1/4 of all the products that I used in the face category is just SPF. I didn't use up any concealer or color correctors. I don't know why that is. I guess I just wasn't focusing on any. For cream and liquid highlight, I do think I used up a lot more cream products this year than I have in past years, mainly in thanks to my Partners in Cream project pan that I'm a part of. I used 2 cream liquidy highlights, and one of them I used as a foundation mixer and the other one I used as a cream blush mixer. For powder highlight, I used up 1 full powder highlight. That's pretty on par with past years, and same with face powders. I used 5 face powders, and I had used 5 last year and 4 the previous year. For foundations, I only used up 2, and the year before I only used up 1. I don't know why it takes me so long to use up foundations, but I do have a handful, quite a few, that I do think will be finished next year, so that number is going to be way higher in 2021. For bronzers, I only used up 1 this year and 2 last year. Once again, I do have quite a few bronzers that I'm almost done with, so those will be showing up in next year's numbers. Normally, it doesn't take me a long time to use up a bronzer. I do apply it very generously, so I am surprised to see that I only used up 1 bronzer this year, but it was a pretty large bronzer. For powder blush, I didn't use up any this year, but I did use up 2 cream blushes, both from Flower Beauty, and so I do still count that as a blush empty. I just like to keep them separated just to have more detail in the data. I didn't use up any powder foundations, but I did use up 3 primers, and I used 4 last year. I think the majority of the primers I used last year were like hydrating ones. Right now I only have 1 mattifying primer and then a hydrating primer, and I really don't feel like I need a ton of primers in my collection in general, so I feel like this number is going to be pretty low from now on. We already talked about SPF. I used up 7 SPF products, and for setting sprays I used up 3. That's pretty on par with normal usage. I usually use 3 to 4 a year, except for 2018, I only used up 1. And the reason for that is because I used up pretty much every setting spray I owned in 2017, and then bought a bunch of new ones for 2018, so all of them were relatively full. Now for lip products, I really thought I was going to do better in this category, and I know for sure that I will next year because I have a lot of products that I want to pan. For lip pencils, I only used up 1. It was NYX Sugar Glass, and I purchased another one because I really like that shade, but I do have a number of lip pencils that are almost done, so those will be reflected in next year's numbers. I didn't use up any lip primers because I don't own any lip primers. I think that number will be 0 from now on. For lipsticks, I'm really proud of this one. I finished up a lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury. I used it all the way, and then I took out the rest of it to use as a cream blush. So I do have 1 lipstick empty to talk about this year. I didn't have any in previous years, and I did finish 3 in 2017, but I think whenever I brought them into my project pan, whenever I started my channel, those 3 lipsticks were pretty much almost finished anyway, and I don't think I dug out the product. I didn't finish any lip gloss or oils, but I did bring in a pretty decent amount of lip glosses into my collection just within the past month or so, and hopefully I can focus on those and move them out quickly before they expire. I think with lip glosses, I just worry that they expire faster than other lip products. I don't know why I think that, but I do plan on focusing on the ones that I have, and so hopefully I will have quite a few to share with you next year. And then for tinted lip balms, I used up 4, which is pretty similar to what I used up last year. Those are mostly either the Catrice Volumizing Lip Balms or the NYX #ThisIsEverything lip balms, which are my favorite. They're staples. I use them all the time, so I'm not surprised that the number is similar to last year. So when we look at the categories as a whole, I definitely use the most from the face category. Obviously, that's because the face portion of my makeup takes up the majority of all my products. I used up, I guess, relatively the same amount of lip products as I have over the past 3 or 4 years, but when it comes to eye products, I used way less than I normally do. I used up $751.50 worth of makeup last year, which is definitely less than what I used up last year, but I would say that range of $750 to $900 worth of empties, I think that's usually pretty typical for my usage. I don't know how useful or interesting this next piece of information is, but when I look at products I use up that are cruelty-free versus non-cruelty-free, I've used up 38 cruelty-free products and only 3 non-cruelty-free products. I think that's all Wet n Wild products. They recently lost their cruelty-free status. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Everybody has different definitions, and I myself don't really know what I consider to be cruelty-free anymore. Obviously, in 2017, when I was transitioning into a cruelty-free makeup collection, a larger percentage of my makeup wasn't cruelty-free, and I was working it out, and I've been slowly doing that over the years, so it makes sense that this number is slowly going down. But also, when we just look at total numbers, I used up 54 products, and I only used up 41 this year. So I think because this year was a little bit lower, I think next year will be higher. Now let's look at my favorite metric, and that is spend versus what I finished. This year I spent $764 on makeup, and I used up $752. So I actually was within $12 or $13 of matching that number, which I think is really good. In the new year, I would like to make sure that I'm not spending more than I'm using up. So I would like my use up number to be higher than my spend next year. So hold me to that. Hopefully I follow those rules. I feel like I did pretty good this year, but I would like what I use up to be higher than what I spend. As for 2020 goals, I really only had 2. I felt like my spending was relatively in control. Having that no buy in 2017 really taught me a lot about my purchasing habits and also just what products work for me and what I can realistically use up in a certain amount of time. So I didn't really feel like I needed to go on a low buy or anything, and I still feel that way. I don't think I need to impose any specific spending boundaries for myself next year. Last year, one of my main goals was to focus on liquid and cream products because they do expire more quickly than the powder products that I had. I feel like I did a really great job at that, mainly because I started the Partners in Cream project pan, which was created by Steph and Delyn, and I will be doing that again next year because I do still have quite a few cream and liquid products that I'd like to use up. So that will be a goal that I set for myself again in 2021, just continuing to make sure that I rotate through those products and use them up before they expire. My other main goal that I had last year, if you can remember, and we can all have a good laugh together about this, was to stop buying eyeshadow palettes. I told myself I wanted to limit my palette purchases to 3 to 4 maximum for the year. I did not do that, obviously. I bought a lot of eyeshadow palettes this year. I think I brought in 12 eyeshadow palettes this year, a lot of them being mini palettes, but that's still, 4 times the maximum that I had allotted myself for that year, so I definitely did not follow that goal. If you look at the palettes that I decluttered versus the ones that I brought in, I actually did follow that 3 to 4 maximum. Over the year, I got rid of, I think, 9 eyeshadow palettes. And so if you look at the net gain, my number of palettes is only 3 palettes higher than it was last year, but I feel like that's cheating a little bit. And I want to point out, I wasn't just decluttering for the sake of decluttering, just so I could bring more palettes in. That's not really my mindset for any of my categories. It really was a lot of the palettes were just expired. I had used them a ton and they were past the age of them performing the way that they had used to perform. I got rid of the ABH Modern Renaissance palette, the Tartelette in Bloom, the Stila Soul palette, a lot of palettes that I got a ton of use out of, and I was just ready for them to be moved out of my collection. So I wasn't just getting rid of perfectly good palettes that I loved just to bring new ones in. So when we look at 2021 goals, like I said, I will be focusing on cream and liquid products. And I think I've done, in general, a pretty good job of making sure that my oldest products are being moved out first, or at least being focused on. I also think that I have my spending under control, so I don't really have a ton of goals that I need to hit or areas that I feel like I need to improve when it comes to curating my collection. I'm relatively happy with all the categories in my collection in general. I did recently put up a video of my planning to pan, which were products that I wanted to focus on next year. And I went through my collection and I actually pulled some more products that I would like to finish, that I could realistically finish over the course of the year. And when I tallied up the amount, it was around $1,000. So even though I've mentioned that it's an arbitrary goal and it doesn't mean anything, and I shouldn't be like just trying to hit random amounts of empty numbers just because I can, I still secretly would like to hit the $1,000 makeup empty goal, using up $1,000 worth of product. I do have a number of higher end products that are almost finished or that I would like to finish up this year, and I think with proper planning and just making sure to focus on certain categories, I do think I can hit that $1,000 goal without overdoing it, without just like burning through makeup. So I am going to count that as one of my goals. I want to hit the $1,000 empties, and I will try to remember in my empties videos that I do every 2 months to give you an update on how close I am to hitting that $1,000 goal. So those are my number comparisons over the years and my goals for next year. Let me know if you've set any specific goals for yourself in 2021. Also, let me know if you were able to hit the goals that you set for yourself in 2020. I know a lot of things happened and changed pretty much everything for most people, and so I don't think any of us should be too hard on ourselves if we didn't hit goals that we had set for ourselves, because none of us could have anticipated all the changes and adjustments that would need to be made this year. I really hope you are able to find a way to close out 2020 on a positive note. Please know my heart is with you. I wish you all the best. And I'm really excited to see where the new year can take us. I do believe in fresh starts. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.